Let me ask you something. Have you ever looked at someone wildly successful and thought, how do they do it? I mean, really, how do they keep showing up day after day when most people quit by Thursday? How do they stay on fire when the world goes cold on them? How do they win when everything around them says they should have given up? It's not luck. It's not magic. It's not even talent. It's something deeper. You see, a lot of people think success is about working hard, waking up early, grinding, hustling. But I'm telling you right now, that's only half the truth. Because if hard work was the only ingredient, then every construction worker, every nurse on a 12-hour shift, every single parent raising 2 kids while holding down 2 jobs, they'd be millionaires. They'd be running companies. They'd be on magazine covers. But they're not. So what's missing? This is where it gets real. This is where people either rise or retreat. Most people confuse discipline and consistency. They think they're the same thing, just different ways of saying stick with it. But let me tell you, the difference between those two is the difference between people who start the race and people who finish it. It's the difference between a spark and a wildfire, between a New Year's resolution and a legacy. You're about to find out what separates the dreamer from the doer, the talker from the walker. Because once you understand the real difference between discipline and consistency, you'll never approach your goals the same way again. And maybe, just maybe this time, you won't quit. Let's get into it. Discipline is the decision. It's the moment you draw a line in the sand and say, enough is enough. It's when you look in the mirror and decide you're tired of being average, tired of being tired, tired of making excuses. It's that flash of fire in your chest when you say, I'm going to change my life. Discipline happens in a moment, a single, defining moment. It's when you choose to walk away from comfort and into commitment. You shut down the distractions, silence the noise, and focus your energy on one thing, doing what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. That's discipline. That's the starting line. But let's get something straight right now. A decision without a habit is a wish. Discipline can change your day, but consistency, that changes your life. See, anybody can wake up at 5 a.m. once. Anybody can eat clean for a week, hit the gym for a few days, or grind hard for a month. That's not impressive. What's impressive is the person who's still showing up in month 6, month 10, year 5, when the results are slow, when motivation is dead, when no one is clapping for them. That's consistency. And it doesn't scream, it doesn't show off, it doesn't need a social media post or a motivational playlist. It just shows up over and over again. Discipline is about emotion. That's why it hits so hard. It's fueled by pain, by frustration, by hunger for change. You feel something deep inside, and it drives you to act. You say, I'm done wasting time. I'm done living like this. So you lace up your shoes, you open the book, you make the call, you go for it. But what happens when the emotion fades? What happens when the fire dies down? Because it will die down. That's not weakness, that's human nature. The body gets tired, the mind gets bored, the soul starts whispering. Take a break. That's where consistency steps in. Consistency is the habit. It's not about how you feel, it's about what you do. It's mechanical, relentless, boring even. But that's the beauty of it. It doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care if you're tired. It doesn't care if it's raining outside or if you had a rough night. Discipline says, start. Consistency says, keep going. You don't need to feel motivated to be consistent. You don't need to be inspired every day to keep doing the work. You just need a system, a rhythm, a routine that you trust even when your emotions are all over the place. Let me put it like this. Discipline is the captain who gives the order. Consistency is the crew who rows the ship across the ocean. Without the captain, the ship doesn't move. But without the crew, it doesn't arrive. Too many people make a decision, but they don't build a system to back it up. They say, I'm going to get in shape, and they do for a few weeks. Then they fall off. Why? Because they had the discipline to start, but not the consistency to endure. They start the business, but don't keep up with the grind. They write 2 chapters of the book, but never finish it. They make the call, go to the audition, send the email, but stop when it gets hard. It's not because they weren't capable. It's because they didn't have the discipline to create a habit and the consistency to live inside that habit every single day. Consistency is how you train your mind to obey the decision your heart already made. It's how you become the kind of person who does the hard things as a lifestyle, not just when it feels dramatic or exciting. You want success? Don't just make a choice. Build a life around that choice. Stack your days, brick by brick. Show up like your future depends on it, because it does. Here's the thing about consistency. It's slow, it's not sexy, it's not dramatic, but it's undefeated. It's the quiet assassin of mediocrity. It sneaks up on you, and one day, you look back and realize you're not the same person anymore. You didn't even notice it happening. Your discipline got you to day one. Your consistency got you to day 1,000. And that's the game. That's the real difference. Discipline makes the decision. Consistency turns that decision into a lifestyle. One without the other is incomplete. Discipline is a spark. Consistency is the firewood that keeps the blaze alive when the winds of life start blowing. So next time you feel that burst of motivation, don't waste it. Use it to set a system in place. Use it to create habits you can live inside, even when the feeling fades. Because feelings fade, but greatness doesn't come from feeling. It comes from doing. And doing day in and day out. That's consistency. That's success. That's how you win. When people first get inspired to chase a goal, when they finally get fed up with being stuck, sick of playing small, tired of watching life pass them by, discipline shows up like thunder. It's loud. It hits fast. It fills the room with energy. It shouts, "Let's go." It screams, "Time to change." You feel it in your bones. It shakes your soul. It charges into your life like a warrior ready for battle. You start waking up early. You start saying no to distractions. You stop making excuses. That moment of clarity hits, and for the first time in a long time, you're locked in, focused, fired up. You feel like nothing can stop you. That's discipline. It shows up big. It wants to be seen, to be heard. It's got a voice, and it's shouting over everything else in your life. And in the beginning, it works. That fire gets you moving. It drives you past your old limits. You push harder in the gym. You stay longer at work. You study deeper, hustle smarter, and start showing up like the future depends on it. But here's what nobody tells you. Discipline doesn't last if you don't feed it. It's a flame, a burst of energy. And like all flames, it dies if it's not protected, if it's not fueled. That voice that was shouting so loud on day one, give it a few days, maybe a week, maybe a month. It gets quieter, softer. The hype fades, the adrenaline wears off, and now you're left with the question that breaks most people. Can I keep going even when I don't feel that fire anymore? That's when consistency steps in. And consistency doesn't shout. It doesn't cheer. It doesn't come with fireworks or big speeches. It just shows up. Quiet, simple, steady. It doesn't ask how you feel. It doesn't care if you're tired, or if your motivation is low, or if the weather's bad, or if nobody's watching. It just does the work. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't wait for permission. It doesn't need to be noticed. Where discipline is loud and emotional, consistency is calm and unemotional. It's almost boring, but make no mistake, that's its power. Because consistency doesn't break. It doesn't bend. It doesn't flinch in the face of resistance. It doesn't get distracted. It just keeps going. You see, discipline is what most people chase because it feels good. It's addictive, that rush of starting something new, that fresh energy of commitment, that feeling of taking control of your life. But the truth is, discipline alone doesn't create success. Starting strong doesn't matter if you can't sustain the effort. It's not about how loud you begin. It's about how long you can continue. Consistency is the quiet engine behind every great achievement. The author who writes every morning, even when they have nothing to say. The athlete who trains on the days their body aches and their mind wants to quit. The entrepreneur who grinds through boring paperwork after the thrill of launching the business is long gone. The parent who shows up with love and patience every single day, even when they're exhausted. That's not discipline anymore. That's something deeper. That's consistency. And here's the irony. The world notices loud. The world praises the start. The world claps when you announce your goals. But it rewards the quiet ones. The ones who don't just shout, they deliver. Over time, in silence, without a spotlight. That's why consistency is powerful. It doesn't need hype. It doesn't need to be seen. It transforms you from the inside out. Slowly, quietly, permanently. Discipline is like a lion. It roars, it attacks, it pounces. But even lions sleep. Even lions rest. Consistency is like the tide. It moves in, moves out. Every day, without fail. You don't notice it at first, but over time it shapes the coast. It carves cliffs. It breaks down mountains. That's real power. Quiet, constant, unstoppable. So when the discipline fades, and it will, don't panic. Don't quit. Don't go looking for another motivational video, another loud voice to push you forward. You don't need more noise. You need rhythm, routine, repetition. You need to keep showing up because the loudest voice isn't always the strongest. Sometimes the strongest thing in the world is the silent one that doesn't quit. The routine that's boring but bulletproof. The commitment that doesn't need to be loud because it knows what it's building. That's the difference. Discipline gets you out of bed. Consistency keeps you moving when you want to go back to sleep. Discipline makes promises. Consistency keeps them. Discipline is exciting. Consistency is effective. And at the end of the day, when the dust settles and the crowd goes home and the lights go out, what's left is who you are when no one's looking. What's left is the quiet work. The work done without praise. The work done without fire. That's the work that builds empires. That's the real path to success. Starting is easy. Let's be real. Starting doesn't take much. All it takes is a spark, a moment of inspiration, a quote you saw, a video that hit you in the chest, a painful moment in life where you finally said, I can't keep living like this. That's discipline pushing you to begin. It gives you that burst of energy, that righteous anger, that emotional charge that says, I'm doing this, no more waiting. Discipline is that first step. It's powerful and it's necessary. You can't do anything great until you decide to begin. And discipline, it's what gives you the courage to make that decision. But here's the truth. Everybody starts. Everybody makes a New Year's resolution. Everybody signs up for the gym, buys the journal, starts the business plan, watches the motivational video, writes the first page, records the first podcast episode. Everybody gets that initial jolt. That's not rare. That's not impressive. That's not even hard. That's natural. What's hard is finishing. What's hard is showing up after the excitement dies. What's hard is staying on the path when it's no longer new, no longer fun, no longer giving you butterflies. That's where most people fall off. That's where most people pack up their dreams and tuck them back into the corner of their mind where they keep all their maybe one days and almost. That's where consistency becomes the deciding factor. Because while discipline gets you to the starting line, consistency is what carries you through every mile of the race. It doesn't matter how much fire you had on day one if you can't keep showing up on day 100, on day 300, on year 5. The world is full of people who started strong, but only the finishers are remembered. Consistency is the real muscle of success. Not speed, not talent, not even passion. It's the ability to keep going when everything inside you wants to stop. When you're bored, when you're tired, when no one is clapping, when the reward feels far away, when nobody believes in you, not even yourself. See, discipline is reactive. It's born in a moment. It flares up in pain or inspiration. You get fired up because of something you saw, something you felt, something that finally pushed you over the edge. But consistency, that's proactive. That's something you build. It doesn't just happen. You train it. You shape your life around it. You create systems so that even when you don't feel it, you still do it. That's how finishers are made. People always say, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And they're right. But I'll take it further. It's how you manage the messy middle. Because the middle is where dreams die. It's not the starting point or the finish line that breaks most people. It's the silence in between, the months or years of showing up with no applause, the grind, the monotony, the setbacks, the doubt. That's where consistency proves who you really are. If discipline is the spark that lights the fire, consistency is the wood that keeps it burning through the night. No matter how wild that fire burns on day one, it won't last if you're not feeding it daily. Every day you skip is a log left off the fire, and if you leave it long enough, it burns out completely. So ask yourself, what's going to get you to the finish line? That rush of emotion you felt 2 weeks ago, or the system you put in place to carry you when motivation vanishes. Because motivation will vanish. That's not a flaw in you, that's just life. Some days you'll feel like quitting. Some days you'll look in the mirror and wonder if it's even worth it. Some days you'll work hard and see no results. Some days people will doubt you. Some days you'll doubt yourself. That's normal. But you've got to keep showing up. Not just for the goal, but for who you become in the process. Consistency molds you. It chisels away the old version of you and brings out the one you've always wanted to be. That version isn't built in a moment of courage. It's built in thousands of unglamorous decisions stacked on top of each other. Waking up early, doing the reps, sticking to the plan, writing when you're uninspired, training when you're exhausted, practicing when you're not getting better, showing up when no one else does. That's what it takes to finish. You won't always see progress right away, but that doesn't mean the work isn't working. It means you're in the middle of the process. And the people who win in this life, they trust the process. They don't chase perfection. They chase progress, step by step, brick by brick. Discipline pushed you to begin. It gave you the courage to start. Honor that. But don't think that's enough. Now it's time for consistency to carry the torch. Because the finish line only belongs to those who refuse to stop. So show up again, and again, and again. The world doesn't reward starters. It rewards finishers. Everybody wants to be consistent. They want the results, the habits, the mastery, the transformation. They want to be the kind of person who just does the work, who shows up without fail. No excuses, no drama. But here's the truth most people miss. You can't have consistency without discipline. You don't just become consistent by accident. It takes a decision, a commitment, a line drawn in the sand that says, this is who I am now. Discipline is that decision. It's the starting fire, the force that says, I'm done with the old me. You need that. You need the initial spark that wakes you up from sleepwalking through life. You need the discomfort. You need the emotional punch in the gut that finally makes you say, no more delays. No more waiting. I'm changing. That's discipline. It gets you moving. It breaks inertia. And without it, you're not going anywhere. You'll stay stuck, daydreaming about goals you never act on. You'll scroll through inspiration instead of becoming it. So if you want consistency, discipline is where it all begins. You have to decide who you're going to be, and you have to mean it. But here's where a lot of people get it twisted. They think discipline is enough. They think if they feel that fire once, if they get serious for a few days, they're good. But that's not how it works. Because discipline will get you to the door, but it won't carry you through the entire house. Discipline is about taking action. When you're inspired, consistency is about taking action when you're not. That's where most people fall short. They get that initial rush, that burst of motivation, and they think that's all they need. They clean up their diet, start hitting the gym, get focused at work, and for a little while it feels amazing. They're in control. They're on fire. They're making progress. But then life shows up. The schedule gets busy. The body gets tired. The emotions go flat. The results slow down. And suddenly, that initial discipline, the one that was so loud and powerful on day one, starts whispering. Then it goes silent. That's when people quit. Not because they're weak, not because they didn't want it, but because they didn't understand the game. They thought discipline was supposed to carry them all the way through. They didn't realize that consistency isn't just the result of discipline, it's the next level of discipline. You can't have one without the other. Discipline lights the match. Consistency keeps feeding the fire. One is about the decision. The other is about the lifestyle. And consistency, it's not glamorous. It's not loud. It doesn't always feel good. But it's where the real growth happens. Because consistency is where the transformation takes place. It's what turns a goal into a reality. It's what takes you from trying to becoming. It's what separates the people who say they want it from the people who prove it. You see, real consistency is forged in the moments no one sees. The early mornings, the late nights, the second wind, the 1,000th repetition. It's forged in the silence, when the world isn't clapping, when progress feels invisible, when the motivation is gone, but the mission remains. That's when it counts the most. And here's the paradox. Discipline is powerful, but it's fragile. It needs fuel. It needs protection. It needs to be turned into something sustainable. And that's what consistency does. It takes that fragile fire and turns it into a controlled burn that can go the distance. Discipline is the decision to show up today. Consistency is the decision to show up every day, regardless of how you feel. And let's be clear, there are going to be days you don't feel like it. There will be days when your mind says, skip it. When your body says, rest. When your heart says, it's not working. That's when most people slide back into the old patterns, not because they don't have discipline, but because they never built consistency. The truth is, discipline without consistency is like a car with no wheels. The engine might start. It might even sound good, but it's not going anywhere. You need consistency to move forward, to build momentum, to get through the valleys and into the victory. That's why it's not enough to just decide. You have to design your life in a way that supports that decision. You have to set up routines, habits, systems, things that keep you locked in even when your mood changes. Because emotions are temporary, but consistency, when done right, becomes your identity. It becomes who you are. And when that shift happens, when you're no longer relying on daily motivation, when you don't need to psych yourself up, when showing up is just what you do, that's when everything changes. That's when success becomes inevitable. So remember this, you need discipline to ignite the journey. You need it to say, let's go. But don't stop there, because if you think discipline alone will carry you, you're setting yourself up to stall out. You have to follow it up with structure, with repetition, with consistency. That's how dreams are built. That's how goals are crushed. That's how legacies are created. Start with discipline, but finish with consistency. Everyone talks about starting. Everyone praises the beginning. The first day at the gym, the first dollar made in business, the first page written, the first decision to say, enough is enough. That moment is powerful, no doubt. That's discipline in action. That's when something in you rises up and says, I'm going to change. It's emotional. It's dramatic. It shakes your soul. It feels like everything in your life is about to shift. And it can if you understand what role discipline actually plays. Discipline just starts the process. That's its job. It's the foot in the door. The alarm clock that wakes you up from a passive life. It's the lightning bolt that zaps you into movement. But just like lightning, it flashes and then it's gone. If you rely on discipline alone, you'll always be chasing that next spark, that next motivational high, that next reason to begin again. You'll be stuck in a cycle of strong starts and short-lived effort, because discipline isn't what transforms you. Consistency is. You don't become a new person the moment you decide to change. You become that person through the grind, through the repetition, through the boring days when you show up anyway. Discipline made you take the first step. Yes, but consistency is what changes the shape of your life. Slowly, quietly, relentlessly. Think about it like this. Planting a seed takes one decision. That's discipline. Watering that seed every day, through all kinds of weather, even when you can't see a sprout. That's consistency. And the fruit, the growth, the strong roots underground that nobody sees, that's the transformation. Consistency is the force that rewires your habits, your identity, your mindset. It's the process of becoming. You show up to the gym, day after day, and one day you realize you're no longer trying to get in shape. You are fit. You stick to your creative routine. And eventually you're not just someone who wants to write. You're a writer. You don't just wish to be disciplined. You've become dependable, resilient, consistent. That's who you are now. You've crossed over. Discipline doesn't create that change. It opens the door. It sets the standard, but it doesn't build the foundation of transformation. Only consistency can do that. Because consistency is the evidence that the change you claim to want is real. It's not a feeling anymore. It's a lifestyle. It's not a high anymore. It's a habit. And habits are where transformation lives. Let's be honest. Discipline gets all the credit because it's sexy. People love to see someone fired up, making bold declarations, cutting out the bad habits, getting serious. We celebrate the start. We post the day one photos. We announce the new project, the new commitment, the new version of ourselves. But all that is just noise if it's not followed by consistent action. The people who change their lives don't just make one good decision. They make hundreds, thousands. Most of them quiet, most of them boring, most of them unseen. But those decisions stacked on top of each other day after day. That's the real work. That's what turns discipline into transformation. Consistency strips away the ego. It's not about feeling like doing the work. It's about being the kind of person who does the work. It's showing up when there's no camera, no applause, no validation. It's doing the reps when nobody's watching. It's staying in the process long enough to become something different. And here's the catch. The transformation doesn't announce itself. It sneaks up on you. One day, you'll realize your reactions have changed. Your focus has sharpened. Your emotional triggers have weakened. Your habits have become automatic. You don't have to push yourself like you used to, because this isn't about willpower anymore. It's about identity. That's what consistency gives you. It hardwires success into your daily life. It builds character. It builds discipline's house and furnishes it with grit, patience, and focus. Without consistency, discipline is just an idea. With consistency, discipline becomes a lifestyle. You can't change your life with one great workout. One early morning, one clean meal, one focused day. But string together a few hundred of those, now you've got something. Now you've got transformation. It's the quiet power of compounded effort. That's why consistency is so dangerous to mediocrity. It erodes the excuses. It chips away at weakness. It doesn't care how you feel today. It only cares that you act every day, whether it's raining or shining, whether you're motivated or drained, whether people believe in you or not, whether you believe in yourself or not, you keep going. That's when change becomes real. Not when you shout about it, but when you live it, even in silence. That's when the world starts to notice. That's when people say, you've changed, and you didn't even realize how much. Because you weren't chasing change, you were living it, one consistent action at a time. So yes, discipline is important. It's where the fire begins. But don't confuse that spark for the full flame. Don't let the noise of a strong start distract you from the necessity of steady progress. If you want to transform, if you want to really become something greater, then you have to lean into the quiet, unglamorous, relentless power of consistency, because that's where the real transformation lives. Not in the decision to start, but in the refusal to stop. At the end of the day, you have to ask yourself one thing. Do I want to impress people for a moment, or do I want to become someone unshakable for a lifetime? Discipline will get you moving. It'll shake your world for a moment, maybe even get others to notice. But consistency, that's what makes you unstoppable. That's what takes a spark and turns it into a wildfire. That's what separates those who try from those who become. This life, this dream you say you want, it's not built on emotion. It's not built on hype. It's built in the silence, in the repetition, in the grind no one claps for. So don't wait for another wave of motivation. Don't chase another moment of inspiration. Make the decision, then do the work. Again and again. Because real success doesn't come to those who start strong. It belongs to those who refuse to stop. Be one of them.